This session is designed for home educating parents who are choosing an IGCSE English language specification for their child. This session will focus on Edexcel IGCSE English language, Spec A and Spec B. At a glance, Spec A has 2 exams. These are weighted Paper 1, 60% and Paper 2, 40%. For this qualification, candidates have an anthology of texts which they pre-study. These texts then appear on the exam. This qualification is also available for on-screen assessment. Spec B is just 1 3-hour paper, which is 100% of their grade. All texts are unseen, and at this point, this qualification is not available for on-screen assessment, but this may change in the future. Specification A is 2 papers. Paper 1 is non-fiction and is 2 hours 15 minutes. Candidates start with an unseen text in which they answer some straightforward retrieval and inference questions. For question 4, candidates then move on to an anthology text. This is a text that they will have pre-studied and prepared for. They are given one of the texts in the exam to write about, and they are marked on their analysis of language and structure. They then need to bring both the unseen text and the anthology text together for a comparison, and this is a 22-mark question. Finally, for this paper, there is a transactional writing task. Students will be given a choice of 2 titles and will have to answer for one of these. This will be a combination of 2 of the following text types: speech, letter, article, review or guide. For paper 2, it is 1 hour 30 minutes. They will be given one of their paper 2 anthology texts. This will be a short story or a poem which they have pre-studied, and they will answer 1 extended response 30-mark question, and then they will complete a piece of imaginative writing. There will be 3 options and they will choose one of those 3 titles to write on. The positives of Spec A is that it takes away the fear of the unknown. There are 10 Paper 1 anthology texts and 10 Paper 2 anthology texts. For each paper, they will be given one of these pre-learnt texts, which means that they can really prepare for it in advance. This means if your child tends to go blank when they are in a high pressure situation, or if they struggle with processing, then we can really prepare them for that exam. Another positive is that the marks are spread across 2 exams. We can build confidence and knowledge of the text before the exams, and the texts are varied and engaging. The negatives to consider with this specification is that there is a lot of content to cover. So if you are short on time and planning to sit the exam within a few months, you do have to cover all 20 of those anthology texts in detail, plus the exam technique and the writing questions. There are also some more literature style texts and questions for this specification with the poems and short stories. This means that it is not always as accessible to students who struggle with the non-literal and metaphorical interpretations of the texts. For Spec B, we have 1 3-hour paper. It follows a really straightforward structure where they look at an unseen text and they do some retrieval questions and then a 10-mark analysis of language and structure question on the unseen text. They then repeat this process on a second unseen text. So again, retrieval questions on unseen text 2, analysis of language and structure on unseen text 2, and then to finish off the reading section of this exam, they will bring both texts together and compare them. For the second section of their exam, it is a reading for writing question. It's called directed writing on other qualifications. Candidates will write a piece of non-fiction writing, but they will use and develop information from within these 2 reading extracts within their writing. They gain both a reading mark for the information that they include from the texts and a writing mark for the overall quality of their writing. Finally, this paper ends with a 30-mark writing question. They will answer one task from a choice of 3 titles. There will always be a discuss title, a story title, and a describe title. The exam, the 3 hours, is broken down into 3 clear sections: 1 hour for reading, 1 hour for the directed writing, and 1 hour for the imaginative writing. The pros and cons of this specification. The positives: it's skills only. There's no pre-studying of texts. The texts tend to be very straightforward, with clear identification of meaning. They don't tend to have that layer of metaphorical and figurative language within there. And because it is all skills-based, you can cover the syllabus in a shorter period of time. The negatives: they are all unseen texts. The grade hinges on 1 exam. And this can be a really long exam if you have extra time. Candidates need writing stamina for this paper. Bear in mind that if you have extra time, this paper is going to be around 3 hours and 45 minutes. Recently, for some qualifications, remote invigilation and on-screen assessment has become available. On-screen assessment is currently available for Edexcel IGCSE Spec A. This means that whether the candidate has an access arrangement or not, they can complete the exam on a computer. This often depends on the exam centres and how many resources they have available for this. So if this is something that you are interested in, it is a good idea to get in touch with the exam centre as early as possible to book this. Some centres also now offer remote invigilation for IGCSE Spec A and IGCSE English Literature. This means that the child can complete the exam at home in an environment that they are comfortable in. This obviously has a cost attached to it. However, sometimes when weighing up the travel to the exam centre, staying overnight, etc., it is worth considering. This offering is updated yearly. Spec B is gaining popularity every year, so it may be added in the future. A note on access arrangements: it's so important to ensure that your child gets all the access arrangements that they are entitled to for every exam, not just for English. If they have ever been to school and they had extra time, coloured paper, a laptop, a private room, a scribe, etc., they are still entitled to these arrangements, but it's your responsibility to organise them. If your child's been diagnosed with a SEND need since starting their home ed journey, please check what they are entitled to. You do need to allow plenty of time for organising this. There's a wealth of information, support and advice on home ed Facebook groups, etc. I have had students who have had to withdraw from their entry in the past because they did not organise their access arrangements with sufficient time. So again, if your child needs access arrangements, if they are entitled to any access arrangements, make sure that they are organised nice and early with the exam centre. And finally, English literature. English literature is optional. I know all GCSEs are optional for home educated students, but literature is not required for the next steps in the same way that language is. Home educated students can take both IGCSE or GCSE for literature. I personally choose to follow IGCSE because students are given the full poetry anthology in their exam. This is the main reason. For GCSE English literature, students have to memorise up to 15 poems and compare them from memory. For IGCSE, they are just given the full anthology in the exam. The texts I personally think are more engaging, and most questions are open book. So all but one question, they are given a copy of the text in the exam, whereas GCSE is closed book. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me and I will get back to you.